Welcome to the Becoming Eva podcast, where we discuss real-life issues from a woman's perspective.
Becoming Eva seeks to break the silence within the female community while fostering authenticity, transparency, and healing.
We're your hosts, Latoya Moore
and Maya Dawson.
Let's get started. Good morning. Happy Saturday.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
How are you all doing?
Doing good.
Good.
A normal Saturday, loud kids running around.
Yes.
Trying to get the house in order, so we're doing good, you know.
That's the norm.
I absolutely love it when I can relate to my guests. You guys get it. You get it. Yes.
I love it. It's going to be a fun one, y'all. So we got the Pattersons in the building. Yes. Or in the virtual building. And we're talking about interracial love, dating, marriage, and family. All right. So we're so excited to have y'all. Really, really excited. So before we dive in, y'all, we got to talk what's trending. So first and foremost, this was election week. Everybody knows that, a lot going on with that. We're not even going to get into the candidates who won, who lost. We're not even getting there. But I will say, for those of you in the state of Georgia, we got a runoff coming up. So I'm just going to encourage y'all to go ahead and vote, and I'll ask, because for some people, they are like, what's the point? I don't necessarily want to vote. I don't feel like my voice matters. Are you advocates for voting? Did you vote? Did you not vote? Like, what are your thoughts?
I'm not going to lie. I ain't vote. I'm not against it. I just I have a weird relationship with voting.
Okay.
I voted for Obama before, but for me, it's just kind of like, I don't want to say it doesn't matter because I know our ancestors, they fought for these rights.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get more passionate about it, but it's just it's hard for me because I feel like my life doesn't change every time I vote.
Yeah.
So, but I'm definitely not against it. I think we should exercise the right.
Yeah.
This time around, I didn't get to it. So
yeah, I got you.
I'm the same way. I feel like I find myself very frustrated with all sides.
Yeah.
I'm very lacking seeing Jesus in all sides. And I'm like, if I don't see Jesus in you, I'm like, I can't. But then I'm like, sometimes you just got to weigh it. But I just find myself stepping back. So, yeah.
Yeah, I voted. Me and my husband, we're pretty, I guess I would say he advocates for voting in our household. So he's always like, when are you voting? Are you voting? Are you voting? Yes, I'm voting. Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, I did vote.
I got you. First of all, I just appreciate the vulnerability, y'all. I mean, I have voted. I honestly, though, will say it feels like a chore. Like I do it. And I have a good friend and she tells me, she said, I vote, but only because people died for me to vote. And she says it just like that. Like, and I'm like, I mean, you probably are seeing what a lot of people are feeling and what a lot of people are thinking. So I appreciate y'all being transparent because I feel like politics is very much along the long game, if you will. And so you rarely see immediate results to your voting. It really is one of those things where it's like, okay, unless you're super into politics and super into, the laws that are being passed and all kinds of stuff, it really does require you to just kind of, put one foot in front of the other and trust God and be like, okay, God, I'm going to do this. So yeah. So, but I will encourage, for this runoff for you to go and vote, if at all possible, go and vote. So yes. So that's topic number one. Topic number two, and we talked about this last week. A lot has been going down with Twitter. A lot, in case y'all ain't know, Tesla owner Elon Musk basically bought Twitter, and he done already kicked out the C-suite, dissolved the board, is trying to make people pay for the blue check, and then people are spoofing people now with the blue check, but it's just a whole lot going on. And so Whoopi, she's always outspoken. She always gonna jump out the window with something. So she was like, I'm quitting Twitter. It's too much going on for me. I can't handle it, and y'all holler at me when you get a little more stability going on. So, but I just want to know, what are y'all's thoughts with everything that's going on with Twitter? Are you still engaged? Are you kind of like one foot in, one foot out? Are you like, it doesn't matter to me? Like, what are your thoughts?
I always love like Instagram and Facebook more. So Twitter for me, it's just like playful. So I don't take it too serious. It's like I post my tweets is like stuff I can't say on Facebook, but like I'm really thinking it and feeling it, because that's what I use Twitter for. Like just say like my unfiltered thoughts. So I don't feel no way about it. I'm just like,
yeah.
I don't.
I'm not really. Oh, go ahead.
I don't really utilize Twitter that much either. Like, I think I definitely like Instagram, Facebook more so than Twitter.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, and then the blue check mark thing, I'm like, you're making money now off of this, and people are just like randomly saying like, I'm verified. Like, yeah, I'm Beyonce. I'm paying my little $8. Verify me. Like, no. It's
too much. Too much. Recipe for disaster. Recipe for disaster. Now, genius from an economic standpoint, you want to pay for your influence, but at the same time, like, for real though, anybody can be anybody now. It's bad enough that everybody can say whatever they want to say and feel like there aren't any consequences or repercussions to it. But it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, they said somebody made like a fake LeBron James page and added like a Z at the end and said that he wanted to leave the Lakers. And like everybody started picking it up because it had like the verified thing on it. And it was like, it's already starting. People like buying accounts and like, so.
It's a mess. It's a mess.
Get your people. Get your people. Wow. So yes, stay tuned. We'll see what happens with Twitter, because that's a whole nother, it's a lot going on there. All right, third and final. Actually, come on in. We want to see the little one, Mikaela. And wait,
he's screaming.
Hello, little one.
Joshua, he doesn't feel very well.
I was just going to ask you though, did you have anything you wanted to share about Twitter before we go on to the third topic?
I don't really use it too much. Okay. I have one, but I don't really use it, so I don't feel like it really affects me. I do think it's crazy how people really out here trying to control people like that, and what they can say and that's crazy to me. That will forever be crazy to me, and I will always be one to advocate for people using their voice, but I don't really use it like that.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you, ma'am. On to our third topic for what's trending. We got to talk about Love is Blind season 3. So I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, because she is like knee deep, waist deep. I don't know. You in it, but give us a recap, because from what I understand, is the season over? Or
it is.
Okay, give us the recap.
Do you watch Love is Blind? Do y'all watch that show?
Do we? Yes. And Aaron, actually, believe it or not, gets a little more into it and passionate than I do.
Yes. So yeah, me and Ryan, that is one of our shows that we watch. And I didn't think he would like be into it, but he watches it with me and he gets into it, and like we talk about the couples. I'm like, ooh man, it's like so thankful that we have each other and that we've never had to do anything crazy, like, the pods. And so if you don't know anything about Love is Blind, basically the premise is that they stay in this place and they meet people through pods, and they never get to see them like face to face until after like they choose to propose to whoever they want to propose to. And then after they propose to that person, then of course they meet and they are fiancés for like 4 weeks, and then there's the wedding day, and then they get to decide if they're gonna say I do or I don't. So it's pretty intense, because you're not basing your decision. Well, the first initial decision is not based off of physical appearance, and they're trying to determine if love is really blind. And so it's very intriguing, very interesting to me watching, and it's kind of cool to see like different couples interacting and meeting people of different races, different cultures, and backgrounds is very interesting. And so, just to recap, Alexa and Brennan, I figured they were going to say yes.
Yeah.
They said yes. Raven and SK. Oh my goodness, Raven.
That's me.
I was like, SK, what are you doing?
No, I thought he was infatuated.
He said, I do not. I'm like, what? What?
As his mom's like, see, I do.
I do. His mom, like, and you have your family members there. They've gotten to meet these people, like, they've built a connection. And so it's very, like, emotional at the wedding day when the family members are either upset that, like, you said no, like, why did you bring us here? Or like you said yes, like we're happy and stuff like that. So SK said no, and Raven was upset because she was going to say yes. And at the reunion, we see them, I guess they let us know that they started dating and they're dating each other again. So I was like, okay, that's cool. So the reason why that he said no is because, like, he was going to school in California and didn't think that,
yeah,
be able to work out. Okay, Nancy and Bartiz. Nancy and Bartiz. So Nancy had reservations when they were in the pods because Bartiz was 25 and she's 31. And so, usually 25-year-old boys, men, are not usually like ready for like a 31-year-old.
Yeah.
And so I think she should have went with her gut and maybe tried Andrew, her other boo thing that would propose to her. And,
Mr. Fake Tears.
Yeah, fake tears. I think she would have had a better shot with Andrew, but she went with Bartiz, and he was a 25-year-old, and that's kind of like how he also Maya, he also was into Raven, and so when he saw Raven, he was like, she's a smokehouse, and that's more of my type. Like, he was like Google eyes all
and
over.
Why you proposed to the other girl. That's all I got to say.
Right. And so this man tells Nancy that. I was like, OMG, like, you are like, that is
savage.
Yes. So he tells her, like, oh, yeah, like, that's more of my type. Raven's more of my type. Like, the blonde, the body, and I was like,
TMI.
Right. Right. And so Nancy's like, oh my gosh. And so he, rekindles with Nancy, and like, but you're up here and she's down here, and like, I connected with you emotionally. Like, he tries to clean it up. Clearly at the beginning of the 4 weeks, I was like, it's not gonna work out because he was not like completely physically attracted to Nancy, even though he slept with her. Like, that first night, he slept with her. And so Nancy, she's totally in love with him, and she says yes on the wedding day. And he, how you send like gifts to each other before the wedding?
Yeah.
She sent like this really sweet gift to him with all these different things that kind of reminded them of all the different memories they created. And he sends her this shot glass and a little note that says, "We got this." So she felt like he was gaslighting her because she thought he was going to say yes.
I mean, you saw the way he bawled his eyes out when he read her thing, right?
I think he was crying.
I'm like, was that fake?
I think he was crying because he knew he was about to say no and was about to hurt that girl. Like, dang, I'm about to hurt her, and like, she really loves me. And I'm about to say no. So he was like in there crying in the bathroom. And so He says, like, I do not. And like Nancy's family.
Mhm.
I was
Not
dead.
family to mess with.
Yes, they were going in on Bartice at the wedding. Like they were like ready to come after him. They were trying to get her brother back and stuff. It was a mess.
Yeah.
He's like,
Her,
Mom, stay away. Stay
her
away.
little brother wanted all the smoke. He was like, he's ready to go.
Step back.
Don't
He's ready
play.
to go.
Yes. Okay. Colleen and Matt, I was like, what are y'all gonna do? I don't know. That one surprised me, but they both said yes. I was like, okay, y'all work it out.
He make me nervous.
He said he definitely gonna abuse her.
He's gonna abuse her.
I'm like,
if it's not physically, it's gonna be verbally. Like,
I thought the same thing. I said, babe, I think he's got anger problems. Like, what? Girl? That's what I picked up too about Matt and Colleen. It seemed like Matt has some little anger problems. He needs to go work out. And then our final couple, Cole and Zenib. That one, I know social media has been lighting up about Cole and Zenib. So Cole, he's had some very like insensitive things and did some insensitive things throughout the show. He said like Colleen and Raven are 10s and Zenab, you're a 9. He told her like, you're a 9. You're not typically my type. I'm usually attracted to like Colleen type of girls and women, women. And, Zenab is not like, I don't know what her nationality is, but Colleen is
like Israeli or something.
British, right?
Oh, British?
Or I think
I tried to look it up. I wasn't like completely sure, but he tried to explain to her like, I knew you weren't white because like Zenab. That's your name. Like I knew when I proposed to you that you weren't gonna be white, but I'm just trying to explain to you that you're not like my typical type that I'm physically attracted to. And so I think for her, she had some like insecurities already. So hearing that was just really difficult. But then they kind of like had gotten over that, and I thought, and so so
that is so cool.
The wedding day, Nab prays for Cole at the altar. And then when she's saying like the vows or whatever, it's not really a vow. It's like she cuts Cole down. It's very harsh. It was just like I felt bad for Cole the way that she talked to him at the altar. It basically said no because he thought that that they were both going to say yes. He felt like it was a little blindsided. And I think everybody was kind of like, dang, based off of what she said, like, because we see all of that, right? And so, she storms off and Cole is up there crying and he's like, I'm so sorry. And like, he's apologizing to everyone. And he was like, I didn't mean to, like hurt her confidence in the way that, like she said. And like, he felt horrible. And so at the reunion, like clearly you can see it all over his face that like the man is like brokenhearted and like having this a tough time like with life. And so, he's still very emotional and upset. And so, of course, everything is being replayed and relived about all the insensitive things. And he was like, yeah, I like my bad. I really hated like watching myself do that. And I apologize. And he apologized again. And so Zenab is still like very like upset and saying all this stuff about Cole and like how he would like try to control what she eats and like suggesting she eats salads and stuff like that. And she's like, and you all didn't see it. The cameras didn't show all those times he was treating me this way and all this stuff. And so and then she brings up an example about the cuties, which is like an orange. I was trying to eat 2, and he was like, both of those. And like she was making it sound like Cole was like, don't eat those 2 oranges. Like, oh my God, like, you need to lose some weight. That's how she was making it sound, right? And so everybody was just like, oh my goodness. and he apologized. It was like it was not intended to be like that. And so at the end of the reunion, they play the cutie scene, like what
Hallelujah.
about. And
Hallelujah.
the cutie scene is like very innocent, like they're just in the kitchen eating like grapes or something, and she was like, yeah, I'm kind of hungry, I just had like a spoon of peanut butter and a banana today. And so she was eating like a cutie, and he was like, oh, are you gonna eat 2 of those? And he was like, well, I have this big dinner planned for us, so you may not want to eat both of those. And so that is what she took to mean, like, oh, now you're saying I can't eat 2 or whatever. It was horrible. I felt so bad because she kind of like made Cole out to be this villain, and I don't think he really was that bad, the way that she talked to him. So I think that's why social media was like, man, Cole.
Mhm.
So
That boy
what
dodged the bullet.
From day one, Aaron was like, she's toxic. I don't like her.
I was like,
She's
bro,
toxic. Right.
I've met her
He
before.
was right.
Like I was
She's
like, babe. She's like, no. She's always on the woman's side.
That's
no matter
not
what.
true. Don't say
To the
that.
end, she
Don't
gonna be
say that.
like,
not always.
no, he shouldn't have said that. Blah blah.
But at the end, I was like, okay, I can't side with her. She's wilding. Like, she's obviously not. She's stretching the truth. Like, so.
Wow. Well, y'all just got the recap for the whole season, in case you were wondering. But that,
Hopefully
yeah.
you didn't
Good
want to watch
Lord.
it and hadn't yet.
Well, it's over now, but everybody was talking about it. So I really wanted people to know, like, okay, what is everybody talking about here? And then, of course, I'm sure there'll be a season 4. So, hey, get ready, y'all. All right, we're going to dive on into the topic at hand. And we're really, like I said, we want to walk through your journey, okay? So we're going to start with the dating. We're going to start with the dating. So break it down for us. How did you two meet?
Should I tell the real story or your story?
Wow. It's the same story.
Okay,
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
So we met at ministry school.
Okay.
So, but prior to that, you guys heard of City Takers, I'm assuming. Mm-hmm. So when I came to Atlanta to visit, I went to a City Taker concert and met, it was a D1 concert. And she went to that same concert separately. And we both heard about the Atlanta School of Ministry from that concert because it was at a place called Atlanta School of Ministry. So I ended up going to the school because of that concert. And she ended up going to the school because of that concert. But we didn't know that.
We didn't see each other there.
We didn't meet each other. We didn't see each other. We didn't realize that until we ended up dating later on. But we went to school and we were strictly like best friends. I could just tell, like, I was like, okay, she's been around black people because how she act and how she talk, I was like, okay, she's a little different. So we were just literally best friends. And I was like, I'll be honest, I was like, I'm going to marry a black or Spanish woman. That's what I said. So I could literally be her friend.
You talked about it frequently.
I talked about it all the time to each other. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna find me a little black baddie. I mean, that's what I'm talking to her. And she was like, she did like black guys, but she wanted like a tall guy. And so I was like, I'm short. I'm 5'9.5". You know what I mean? So like she wasn't attracted to me at all. No. And I was like, oh, she cute and all, but she white. You know what I mean? So we ain't gonna do that. So we literally we were just friends. We would talk about the Lord 5-6 hours in a car, platonic, nothing happened.
Talk about his crush, my crush.
We would talk about each other's crushes, give each other advice. And that was like for about 2 years. Yeah. And then one day I was in the shower and I heard the Lord say, Aaron, you got to stop looking for perfection and focus on connection. And when he said it, I was like, what does that mean? And I went to class that day and I sat next to her every day in class. I just looked at her and something in my brain was like, oh, she bad. I don't know what it was, but something that day I was just kind of like, I started seeing her different. So of course I started flirting with her and hitting on her and stuff. And she's like, ew, you're my brother. Gross. Get away from me. And I'm like, nah. In my head, like, no, you my wife. Like I figured it out, Lord. I'm like, she's my wife. So for a year and a half, I'm pursuing her and she's like kind of pushing me off. But I got experience. So I knew she liked me, but she just wasn't ready to say it.
I didn't. It took time.
I knew she liked me because even though she said she did it, she still would try to spend all her time with me. I was like, she would say with her words, we're just friends, you're my brother, but text me all day and be like, what are you doing later? So I was like, okay, I've been here before. So I played it cool. And then eventually we got a lot of fights because she would kind of like talk to other guys, and I get jealous. And then if I was even like a girl's picture or something, she would get a little jealous. So it was like
Toxic.
it was a little toxic. I go
was
cap.
toxic.
Okay, she was a little toxic. I go cap, but
Toxic.
she's a little
Had a
toxic.
lot of unhealed trauma.
But at the same time, where I feel God saying like, Aaron, be patient with her. She's been through like a lot of trauma in her life. She has like a lot of stuff she's walking through. Like that is your wife, so but be patient with her. Like there's a lot of stuff. Men have hurt her a lot. So the fact you're a good guy, she's not used to this. So like be patient with her. At the same time, she said God was telling her, like, don't date him. Like you need to heal. Like you need to like walk through these things. So God was telling me be patient, and God was telling her chill. And then, but I was like, I was at my wit's end.
Yeah.
I'm like, like I ain't an ugly dude. We in Atlanta. I'm sitting, I'm chasing you around. I'm like, yo, I could go somewhere else. I could go back to my original type. Like it's none. So that's what I'm starting thinking in my head. And God know how I move and like I think when I'm done, I'm done. Like I don't go back. This is how I am. So and God knows that. So I was getting ready to give up on her. I was really getting ready to give up on her. I was talking to God in worship, and I was like, God, get your daughter. I don't do this no more. And I texted
love
God, and I was like, if this is my wife, make her come give me a word right now. I was just talking on my butt, and then literally, I lift my head up, and she's like walking towards me like fast, and then she sits down next to me, and she goes, Aaron, I feel like. She was like, I feel like God wants you to stop striving so much and just abide in him. And she's talking for 5 more minutes, and I'm not even paying attention because I'm freaked out.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
yeah.
I'm like, what just? So I don't even tell her this. This is something I'm just keeping to myself.
Yeah.
So for about another like 4 or 5 months, she's still playing games, but God kept reminding me of that. And then this, I'll never forget. This was January 2015. I was like, Bubba, what are you talking about, God? Like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I call her like, listen, I don't want to be in your life no more. You're not gonna be with me. We're not gonna do this whole friendship thing. Like, I'm done with you. Like, leave me alone. Leave my number. Don't talk to me.
Wow.
And then she was like, okay. And then I guess when she was by herself, she was crying out to God, like, God, like I kind of like this guy, but you told me not to be with him.
Yeah.
And she's crying out to God, screaming, and God was like,
yeah, I literally had one of those moments. I don't know if y'all can relate to this, where I like, because I'm very transparent with the Lord, and I like, if I feel something, I go there. And so I just was like screaming and crying, and I'm like, I need you to like tell me, because I'm so sure you told me stay away from him, only be friends with him.
Wow.
And so I'm like, even though I feel having feelings for him, I'm pushing him away. I'm like, no, I'm trying to talk to other guys. He's taking that as disrespect. And I'm like, but the Lord told me not to be with you. I'm telling you we're friends. He's like, but so it was this whole thing. And I'm like, I need you to tell me, like, am I supposed to be with him or not? Because it was like, it just got so toxic to where it was like, we're either going to date or we just can't be friends at all. And we're going to have to cut each other off. And so I'm like screaming. I'm like, I don't want to like lose him in my life. Like, I feel like he's supposed to be in my life, but you told me not to date him. So what do I do? And it was like tangible, like clear as day. The Holy Spirit was just like, Mikaela, what is the purpose of people getting married? What is the purpose of people dating? How do I put people together? And he asked me that question, and I was like, to bring you glory and to bring each other closer to you. And he's like, would Aaron do that for you? I was like, yeah. And he's like, all right, call him back. So I call him back. Naturally, he's heated. He's like, what? I'm like, I finally think I'm ready to date you. And obviously, he doesn't believe that. He's like, no, you're not. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and I was like, no, really. And so we started dating in December. We got engaged in May, and then married in October.
Married in October, pregnant in November.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's honeymoon baby.
Had a honeymoon baby.
Love it. So it's November now. When's y'all's anniversary? Did it happen already, or is it about to?
Yeah, it was October 13th.
Oh, you got married in October. Okay.
We got married October 13th, and we found out she was pregnant like November 20th. So we were like, so we really, the whole time we've been married, she's been pregnant or we've had kids. So the honeymoon was the honeymoon. That was it. But it was kind of like, we didn't even technically have a honeymoon phase because we already knew each other for like 4 years before we started dating. So all that butterfly stuff was out the window. It was like, this was like a sober decision. Like, okay, we're choosing each other. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm so in love with you, and it was like, okay, we love each other, but like we've been through the heat. I've seen her at her worst, like the worst of the worst. She see me at my worst. So that little phase where it's like, oh my gosh, you can do no wrong in my eyes. We didn't have that phase. It was like, no, we love each other. It's like a sober, like a sober, like grown love where it's like, I don't like you right now, but I love you.
Yes.
So it's like,
but I feel like that prepared me for marriage.
Facts.
Because that's what it is in marriage. It's not the butterflies. It's like the sober-minded, you're a wreck, but I love you because I am too, and I'm choosing you.
And there's those moments where it's like,
there's
oh my gosh, like, I love you so much. But half the time it's like, she took my towel off the thing, or a messy, or it's like it's a lot of that. So a lot of time when we talk to other couples, and I'm like, bro, you're describing marriage. Like, what did you think this was gonna be? And they're like, well, she just doesn't do this, and I'm like, bro, if we ask her about you, she gonna have a laundry list of stuff that annoys her. You talking to me about anything that annoys you about her, but it's like she can have the same feeling. So yeah, it was a journey. Like God kept us together, and He's still keeping us together. But it was like, yeah, it's like unique. And I tell people all the time, like, that's our story. If you're in a situation where you feel like somebody a little toxic, unless God told you to be there, like audible voice, like He told me low key,
leave, run.
You need to leave. But it's like for us, now I see why God did that, because now she's nowhere near who she was when I was trying to get her. She's
that was my healing season.
Yeah,
there was a reason I wasn't supposed to be talking about.
She's not the same woman she was when I was pursuing her. Like, she's healed, she's healthy, great mother. So it's like I didn't see that. I didn't know this version of her was in there, but now I'm seeing it.
But you love me anyways, which is really.
And I still loved her when she wasn't like this. You know what I mean? So it was like
toxicity.
She finally got right.
I love it. I love it. Y'all already slid into marriage real quick. Before we dive back into marriage, I just want to make sure on the dating piece. Okay. I know you talked a little bit about your list, Aaron. Did you have a list, Mikaela, or were there like perceptions or stereotypes even that you may have had to encounter or overcome while you guys were dating, or as God was revealing, like, hey, this is who I'm supposed to marry?
I definitely had a list because I think I had just been hurt so bad. I'd been cheated on a lot. I had been lied to a lot. And so I definitely had a list. I also was very picky. Just like Aaron said, he had, this is what I want. Like physically, I definitely had that. I knew I did not want a white man. And I think a lot of that, honestly, the more I grow and heal, I'm realizing was actually trauma. Was like being hurt by my father, being hurt by family members, being just so much pain where I was like, I don't want someone that looks like the people that hurt me. Yeah. And I had a list, but I wasn't always the best at sticking to it. So the Lord, it was honestly like the Lord having so much grace on me and allowing me to still get what He had for me, even though my choices would have chose otherwise.
Amen.
Yeah.
I have to ask because I have heard conversations and probably even been a part of conversations where your parents or somebody might say, all right, if you're going to bring somebody home, they need to be X, Y, and Z, or they need to look like this. Did any of y'all or either of y'all come from families like that or encounter situations like that when you chose each other and God revealed y'all were supposed to be together? Did you encounter any opposition either from family members or friends or anybody else around you?
I remember, I don't know all scenarios. I do know one of your uncles said something about, you really moved to Atlanta and going to bring home a white girl. He said something like that.
He did.
And I was like, okay, I get it. But
he like my older uncle where it's like, he drink a lot. He from the South. He like South
got one.
Yeah. He's like,
I get it.
My family was shocked though, because all my friends knew, like, I was gun hold on, like, no, I will never marry a white woman. Like,
oh wow.
I'm thinking about the barbecue. I'm thinking about all the other stuff outside of her, like how uncomfortable I might be in like all white situations. And I'm like, okay, if I marry a white woman, I don't marry her. I marry her family, her uncles, her cousins, all that, graduations, cookouts. I'm thinking about that. I knew her, like the Lord, like, I don't want to, how can I say this? She was the only white woman I could have been with. You know what I mean? She was like, it was literally like her. And that's why I knew it was God. Because everything that I told myself I wouldn't do, all those walls just came down. So like I had a list of like looks, personality, and one of my mentors checked me. Y'all know Scott Free. He said, Aaron, so basically he was like, you're gonna look for everything she is in who she is in a black woman or a Spanish woman. I was like, yeah. He was like, think about what you just said. You love everything about her but the color of her skin. And I was like, well, when you put it like that, and he was like, you gotta do some soul searching because you might spend the rest of your life looking for everything she is in another body, but that other body is gonna have all the different set of problems. It's like, so for me, my parents were just shocked. My parents don't care. They were just happy I wasn't ratchet and I found love. They were like, Amen. I don't care what she looked like, what she is. We're a little surprised, but like she seemed like a good woman. Like, hey, Aaron, we happy for you. My uncle's a little whatever, but I remember the thing your dad asked you one day you was at the restaurant.
Yeah, so there never were really any big issues with my family. Thankfully, there was just one scenario, and it honestly really stung because I wasn't expecting it. Where we're at a restaurant. This is like after Aaron and I had gotten engaged, and we're eating at this restaurant, and there was like a mixed family. It was like predominantly like Black people, and then I think there was like one white woman, and they had some mixed kids. And my dad, if I cry, I'm sorry. Okay. He saw that, and he was like, so pretty soon, your family is gonna look more like that, and are you okay with that? And I was like, what are you talking? I was like, I need you to realize how that sounds. Like that's not okay. And he's like, I don't mean the appearance. What I'm saying is like culturally, and there's just so many like mentalities, and it's different. It's different than what you were raised. There's a lot of things you might run into like perspective wise, like is that something you've considered? And I was like, yes. Like I've considered it. Aaron and I have conversations, like I know that, and that's something I'm ready for, that's something I'm prepared for, that's something that but it was just really hard to hear that. It was really hard for me to hear that, but I feel like that was really the main thing on my end.
You never said nothing about like kids or nothing like that? It wasn't like not being around? Like I thought you said something like that. It was something else. Okay.
No,
that's a real question though, and I mean, I don't know what the state of his heart was when he asked it, but I can imagine or see both ends of the spectrum where it may have come from a very pure place, but then at the same time hit you like, I can't believe that. So,
and I know it did. It's like he's trying to look out for me and doesn't. But it's like, honestly speaking, we can't have conversations. My father and I, we can't have real conversations because I do like lean, like I was raised by him, but now being married to a Black man and hearing his heart and hearing his pain, and I don't want to say relate more, but I agree more with him, right? And my mentality is more like my husband's than it is like my father's, and so we can't have those conversations, and like we just can't. We can't have those honest conversations, and that's just a loss that I had to take. Just like Aaron made a sacrifice at the end of the day, like you know what I mean. You took a risk, like marrying someone who potentially could not understand, right? And you're really patient, and I'm really thankful with how patient you are, like, because I know that's not convenient to have to answer questions and explain, and you know what I mean, explain things, and I'm just, you're very patient and kind.
Help me understand. I'm like, okay, so this is how you said it. Like I know that wasn't your heart, but this is how they're gonna hear it. So it's a lot of like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. But
a lot of realizing a lot of things are very deep rooted, just ignorance. You know what I mean? That I'm like, So,
can you give an example? If you don't, I can't think of one or don't feel comfortable, that's fine. But I was just curious. I have a
perfect example, and this is something that, oh my goodness, I feel like an idiot now in retrospect, but I always would get whenever I would hear someone use like the term like white privilege, I would get so like triggered and offended because I'm like, I viewed like white privilege as a mentality. I thought that meant that in my mind, right, I think I'm better than you. And I feel like I have privileges over you. And it's a mentality that I'm thinking I'm better than you and I'm above you. And I would be like, I don't have that. Like, I don't think of you. Like, what? Like, how are you going to tell me how I think? And it was something that, you know what I mean? Every time that would come up, I'd be like, Aaron, I don't have white privilege. And he's like, no. All right. And finally, one day he broke it down for me. And he's like, it's not a mentality. Like, you can love Black people. You can be an ally. Like, all of these things. But you were born with white privilege because you are white. And I was like, oh my God, like, how did I, like, and it was just like this revelation. I'm like, okay, I get it now. It's not, I don't get to choose whether, you know what I mean? Like, that's just something I'm born with. It's not this ignorant mentality. And so I was so hurt because I'm like, no, like, I love you. I don't think I'm better than you. Like, what? And so that was something I had to realize. I feel like we had a lot of conversations about that before I like,
especially
realized.
in 2020. It was
oh my gosh, yeah, it was like that term
Yeah.
was being used a lot, and I'm like, please don't put me in that box. But I'm like, okay, I see, like, I get it.
Yeah.
That year was,
So
Real question. Go ahead. I'm sorry,
yeah,
Aaron.
that year was hard because I posted stats that day. I was real. I was like, babe, sometimes I wake up and I look at you and I know you're not my enemy, but like I have to remind myself like you love me. Because like in that year, like I was mad at the church. It was like a lot was going on inside of me. And I'm waking up every day next to her. And I would just be like, it was a battle. And it was like, that was a rough year for me with everything that was going on.
Yeah.
So we had like a lot of hard conversations like in 2020. It was a whole lot of conversations about race, perspective, explaining to her like institutional racism, all this stuff that it's like, well, like, what you mean, Black people? Like, she wouldn't say it, but it's like the thought being like, well, you guys are like more successful now. So like, break down how you could be more successful, but still be oppressed. And it was like, just a lot of conversation. It helped me grow and understand myself more because I had to do more research. I don't want to just talk. And I'm like, okay, let me really understand the history, redlining, all this type of stuff. I'm trying to break
in
down.
the church, like the just Western culture, Western Christianity, and like race deep rooted, just
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
so
there too.
it was rough.
Thank y'all for sharing and just being honest about it. So we're going to dive into marriage and family. Toya, I'm going to turn it over to you and see if there's anything you wanted to share before we turn into that, or just dive on in.
Yeah, I know you guys have already kind of touched on some of the different things as it relates to marriage and like the different cultures and the merging of your families. Thank you guys so much for just being transparent, because a lot of times like we are not privy to like really understanding the dynamics of an interracial relationship. Like me and my husband, we talk about it, like we think like, oh man, like especially with like 2020 and all that stuff, like I wonder how that conversation is going in their house. I mean, like being real, like we talk about that because we have interracial couples and friends and stuff too. And so we're like, ooh. When things happen in the world, like we act like, I wonder like what, like we're talking about this, I wonder how that conversation goes in their household. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about marriage. You guys kind of shared a little bit about like you knew that you were each other's spouses. How do you all work to maintain your intimacy in your marriage? I know you guys are freshly married and you got 2 babies. So how do you guys work on that?
Shoot, it's a fight. Sometimes you gotta schedule it. You know what I mean? We just gotta, and she better at it than me, because like I'm just so goal oriented, driven. I'm trying to get us out of our situation. I got a clothing line, I do music, so like I'm always like focused on like the goal, and she's more like spend time with me, like I'm here, like love me, like
I feel like I'm very present.
Yeah, I'm not.
And since you're an entrepreneur, you're always like, you know, the things I have to do, but that's what keeps our family afloat, is him being that way. But like I feel like I'm better at being like intentional and like, hey, like we need
date nights, like date night
time, like we have to have, you know, that's important. And so it's not easy, but I feel like we do our best.
I would say probably date night and just
counseling.
Yeah, we do marriage counseling, like intentional like moments away from the kids
Mhm.
is what we try to do. Like, okay, and we could be way better at it, but she fights for that like a lot.
And I've had to realize too, it's not that he doesn't care about it, it's that he doesn't have the capacity to, like, right now in this season, I need to cover him in the areas that he, and vice versa. You know what I mean? Like, he's focused on like finances and like how to keep us afloat. So I need to cover him in that area and like, yeah, fight for that when he's, when that's not what you're thinking about.
But I'm finding more of a value for it. Like
Yeah.
but like, because growing up, like I had a father that was around but wasn't around, so I didn't really see what marriage is supposed to look like. I don't really know. I'm like learning on the fly. I have a couple people I look up to when it comes to marriage, but overall, I'm just kind of like, I don't know what this is supposed to look like. I know I love you. I know I love my kids. So she's thinking about vacations and trips to the park, and I'm like, my brain doesn't even
You're
think
like, we
about
get
that
money.
stuff. I'm like, I love y'all. I'm saying with my words, I'm cool just hanging out in the house with y'all all day. It's like, no, we got to go here, make memories, take pictures. So the intimacy part, she's good at that because that's what she's wired for that, like connection, intimacy. And I'm not really wired for that. So it's like we meet in the middle where like if she gotta like nag me for a week straight, she will. She'll be like, Aaron, we need to do date night. Find a babysitter. We gotta do date night. Aaron, we need date night. Aaron, we need date night. I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay, we will. But yeah, so.
Yes, I can attest that. Yes, it's very hard when you have kids, and like I told you we have 4, but
And you have, yes,
intentional about getting those date nights. What comes in handy is our village. So godparents, neighbors, get them on a rotation because I know it's expensive, babysitters and stuff, and it's hard for us. It's hard to find someone that will take all 4 of them for like a reasonable price. Like some people are like, it's like $10 per kid per hour. You're like, that's $40 an hour. Like I can't do that. So yes, I get it, but use your village if you have one. If you don't have one, get a village around.
Get a village.
Yes, get a village to help. Like me and my neighbor, she has 4 kids, or they have 4 kids. We have 4 kids, so we are gonna start like alternating date nights. So, like you take
smart.
You take my 4 kids, and I'll take your 4 kids, and we just put dates on the calendar now. It's what we're trying to do. So
that's good.
Find somebody. So what are some ways that you all intentionally incorporate like your backgrounds and cultures within your home?
While you're thinking about it, can I say something?
Okay, go for it.
Okay. No, I think it's funny because it's kind of connected to what we were just talking about. Like he even said, like, I think growing up for him, they weren't as family oriented, and my family is as toxic as the home I grew up in was. It was very abusive, very violent. However, one thing we always did was we did go on vacation, and they were very intentional. And so my mindset is like, that's very important. Like you take pictures because you're going to appreciate those 20, 30 years from now, right? When your kids are out of the house, you're going to want that. You're going to wish you had those vacations. You're going to wish you had slowed down to go on a date night, right? Because now your back's blown out and you're too old and you can't walk, and you know what I mean? And you can't, like, you're gonna wish that, like, no, I think like that though. I'm like, I want to like look back and be like, wow, like I used my time the best that I could, and I was as intentional with my babies and with my husband as I possibly could have been, with my words, with my time, with my actions. And so that is really important to me. And so I feel like that's kind of something that I bring to the table as far as like my culture per se, or like I don't know if that answers that. That's the only thing I can think of. Yeah. But
you grab the charger bag. Yeah. For me,
it really does. Go ahead.
For me, I'm still trying to figure out what my culture is, honestly. So
what's like, your background? Like, how were you raised? Are there certain things that you either intentionally brought into your family or did not because of how you were brought up? You know what I mean?
So my family is like a bunch of introverts.
Okay.
So like we could literally be in the same room for like 4 hours and not talk, and we cool. Like if the movie's on, or we're straight. It
Gotcha.
wasn't like it's awkward. So it's like I carried that with me where it's like I kind of only like being around people where we don't have to talk if we don't want to. And
Gotcha.
it's not awkward. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
we know we love each other,
Yeah.
but like we don't gotta talk. So for
Yeah.
her, that's all she wanna do. I mean, so it's like that's all she wanna do. So yeah, I brought my culture in as far as like I didn't really have a value on family, even though I had older brother, two little sisters. There wasn't too many vacations. Even if it wasn't like okay, we all eat together. It might be like we make dinner, somebody at the table, somebody's in the living room. It was kind of like it wasn't like a value system on it. It was just kind of like, oh, we all know we love each other.
Gotcha.
But it wasn't like words of affirmation. It wasn't a lot of that stuff. So I still carry that with me. And we realized that that's why a lot of the friction happens because I don't really have a value system for family. Like I know I love them, but it's hard for me to show it and say it and act like it. So I kind of brought that into marriage. And she's like, if you love me, this is what you would want to do this. And I'm like, no, my way of loving you is like paying these bills. And like, you know what I mean? That's how I feel like I'm out here hustling 8 to 8 every day because I love you. That's how I'm thinking. She's like, spend time with me. And so it's like it's been like a battle of realizing like that's her love language, and I can't love her the way I like being loved. Kind of like, so I'm learning like, oh, I didn't love her how she needs it. That's words of affirmation and time. So I gotta do things to give her more time and just tell her I love her more than just saying like I showed you. So it's kind of like, you know what I mean?
So good. That is so good.
Yes. So, how did I want to transition a little bit into family? So, how did life change once you started having children? I know, you guys mentioned the first one was a honeymoon baby. So,
Yes.
how did life change for you all?
Oh my goodness. Drastically. Something I tell people often is that I feel like I had to almost kind of like mourn my marriage because it was like we got married and then immediately had a baby, and like that's like it is a big transition. And I'm like, I feel like I haven't even got adjusted to being married, and then now we're adding another person to that. And so
Oh, they'll be back, y'all. Hold on. It was so good.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Oh.
till they get back, I was gonna say, Toya, I feel like although y'all didn't have a honeymoon baby, y'all had a very close to honeymoon baby. So I was gonna say, do you identify some of what she was saying with the transition? But then also too, I never heard anybody say they had to almost like mourn their marriage and because they took on children immediately after. That was interesting to me, but I get what she's saying.
Yeah. So with me and Ryan, it was okay. So we got married in December and we conceived in August. So I think that's about 8 months later. So I felt like we didn't have like a long honeymoon period before we had to be like, oh no, we have a child on the way. Like, I feel like we didn't have like a ton of time to enjoy like our married life. Like we did like a couple vacations and stuff like before I conceived, but everything was like boom, 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 like really quick. It's like, oh, okay, we're buying a house. Bam. Oh man, Toya's pregnant. I was like, oh my gosh, like everything going so fast. Definitely fun. Like, I don't regret it at all.
Yeah.
I just feel like we've had to kind of grow with ourselves and learning each other as like we were learning how to be parents, which was kind of like, it was a challenge. And then, Ryla was the only child for a while and then was like, bam, here's another one on the way. And so that dynamic of, okay, now I'm a mom of 2. And now look at me now, mom of 4 kids. So
and you were pro. You got this. You got this. You a vet in the game.
So it's been a lot of like growing pains along the way with like navigating the balance, and we've had to have like come to Jesus moments and conversations when I felt like too much was on my plate, and as far as being a mother and working full time, coaching, and I had to reprioritize different things in my life so that we could make it work. But I definitely can relate to what they're saying. It wasn't a honeymoon, baby, but it happened within our first year of marriage where we did conceive, and I was like, "Whoa, that was quick." And life changes; it really does, and it brings about like some challenges.
So sorry
about that.
No worries. No worries. Toya was giving us her journey because I was sharing with everybody it was very similar. They did not have a honeymoon baby, but they did conceive within the first year. And I loved the love is not the word I want to use, but I appreciate the fact that you were vulnerable enough in sharing, like you felt like you had to mourn your marriage because it was like, okay, we immediately went into having children, because I think a lot of the reason I say I love the fact that you shared that is because I feel like a lot of women don't necessarily share that or feel the freedom to acknowledge the fact that it's a shift. It is a change. So yeah, thank you for being honest about that. So, but go ahead. Y'all were sharing about how things changed once you started having children.
Yeah, no, I was just saying it was something I feel like I had to mourn, and because motherhood is very beautiful, but it is very hard.
Yeah.
And so.
And I used to get offended when she would say I had to mourn motherhood. I had so I'm like, it just sounded like she was always unhappy.
Okay.
With her new, I'm just like, I'm kind of happy. We got kids. We got. So she was like, but for me, I get it because I got married when I was 28 or 29. So I had already lived life, made my mistakes, bumped my head, ran around the streets. So when I got married, I was hanging on my jersey. I'm good. I was like, hey, I had my fun. I'm good. I'm settling down. Her, she had a traumatic childhood upbringing and stuff, with a lot of abuse. And then when she got free from that abuse, she was about 19. So she had about 3 years of just kind of being normal. And then we met at college, and then we kind of started dating. So she didn't really have a phase of just enjoying life in a sense, not even with partners and stuff, just traveling and just being young. She didn't have that phase. And then we got married and had kids. So when she broke it down like that, I was like, oh, okay, I can understand you being I never really got to just be free and just enjoy my time and have friends and do girl nights and stuff like that. We just hopped right into marriage. And I'm like, so I had to stop being offended and realize she loves me, she loves the kids, but she had to mourn, especially on Instagram. It's you see all these couples traveling and she's like, oh my gosh, they could just be free and run around and road trips. And she's like, we never been able to do that. So yeah.
Wow. That village is important though. So yeah, hopefully can get some people around you to support you and help take the load off. So yeah.
And we only recently just went on just a husband-wife trip for our 10-year anniversary, and we were able to leave all 4 kids when we went to the Dominican Republic. But that was a 10-year anniversary. Our vacations usually it's not really a vacation because so. I mean, we go to the beach, the mountains, different things, but it's not the same as a vacation, where you can really rest. Because I feel like when we go on vacation with the kids, it's not a vacation for me because you still have to be a mom, you still dealing with diaper changes, doing hair, getting people together, and then they're having fun, and you're like, I just want to sit down and relax. But you just got to get it in when you can.
Facts.
I love it. Before we get into words of wisdom, I do want to ask, on the note of having children that are biracial now, and thankfully we live in a day and time where it's not super uncommon versus 10, 20, 30 years ago, but what are some of the challenges that you may or may not have encountered, or that you may foresee encountering? And it could be just practical things like hair textures, or going out in public. Do people acknowledge that these are your children? Whatever. But what are some challenges that you either have experienced or may foresee experiencing having biracial children?
I should go first.
I think for me, I definitely can foresee a lot of the things. Aaron and I have had conversations, and just unfortunately the state that our world is in, definitely foresee things that we'll definitely have to have conversations. Fortunately, because they are so little, and I'm a stay-at-home mom, so they spend most of their time in the house, like unless we go to the park, they're not really around a lot of people other than our church community. And so that has been a blessing. But I don't know if dread is the word, but kind of, I do have a fear for when they are older, and we do have to have a lot of those conversations. Yeah. For sure. I've definitely had to learn their hair. That is new to me, because typically, right, like unless you have, at least when you're white, unless you have a little girl, you don't really have to do too much with your hair. If you have a boy, right, you brush your hair, you're good. Okay, you're good. But like, just like, it's so different having, okay, like if I need to brush their hair, I have to wet their hair first and add all this gel, so it doesn't hurt their hair, just to get the tangles out. And it is really hard. And so I don't ever want them being misrepresented, or, walking in public looking crazy. And so thankfully I have people who cover me and love. Like, I had this one precious woman. I love her so much. I look up to her so much as a wife and a mom. This Black woman that goes to church with us, and she told me very lovingly, but she was like, what are you using? Like, what brush are you using? Because I'm noticing his hair is still a little tangled. And I didn't notice that, because to me, I'm like, I spent almost an hour untangling it. So I'm like, I thought it looked, but like, I appreciated that, because I'm like, I don't want him out here looking crazy, and I don't want people looking at me like, oh, you don't know what you're doing, So I view that as like her covering me. And so just things like that, learning to navigate, like, yeah.
Yeah, and I've had to explain to her, because I'll call my sons black, like they black, and she'd be like, "Okay, Aaron, they're half white too." I'm like, no, they black.
What I went through, like, okay, for 9 months, and then birthing them, I'm like, please don't.
They are half of me, and I'm like,
I get offended.
But you know what? The world is going to see them as black. I feel like the world sees biracial kids as not biracial. They see them, oh, you're black.
Yeah. Nobody's like, oh yeah, Drake is half white. Yeah. They're like, no, Drake.
I didn't even know that. Like,
Drake is a black man. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that white part of them, and they're a little more light skinned. But even that, I'm like, the world's gonna see them as black, so I have to prepare them. I'm not gonna prepare them like they're white. I'm gonna prepare them like they're black. And yes, we're not gonna just not talk about the half of them that's white. But as far as like how I'm preparing them, like when they talk to police officers when they're older and all that, they're not gonna get the privilege of a white person. Yeah. So I was like, so she's like, oh, okay, I get it. I thought you were just trying to say like they 100%, they all you. She's like, no, I'm pushing them out. Like they have white.
That's right, Mikaela. Tell them, Mikaela. She pushed them out.
Like, I love you, but you ain't doing the work.
Don't discount my experience, because that was like a lot. But
okay, baby.
Oh, little one. We got you though. We understand. Wow. All right. Anything in closing for family before we go into words of wisdom, Toya?
I think we did great with all the main concepts of the family and the biracial, and I can definitely relate to some of those different challenges that you guys are experiencing. Like, I have 4 kids, and some of them get mistaken for being biracial.
Really?
Yeah, because of the way that their hair looks. Like, I grew up like that too, where people would assume that I was biracial based off of my hair. Like, you're not black. You're not black. Like, yes, I am. Like, both of my parents are black. So I definitely get it, and some of my girls are experiencing it, and I'm sure my son will experience those challenges as well, because his hair looks like what you would typically see as a biracial person's hair, but his parents are both Black, so I
Oh
know,
wow, okay.
you know, experience those different challenges as well.
Mm.
But we wanted to know if you guys had some words of wisdom that you like to share, maybe with an interracial couple about dating, marriage, family, any words of wisdom that you all would like to share.
Wanna go first?
You go.
Where's the rhythm for interracial couples? Have the tough conversations. It all depends, like, where you come from. So for me, like, I come from being like in Black culture, like that's where I come from. So it's like it's a lot of conversations and perspectives that I have, and I had to learn that, like, I have to die sometimes to my perspective and not look at it like she should just get it and understand it because she's white. She's not going to understand certain things. So in the beginning, I used to get super frustrated. Like, why don't you see it this way? Like, it's obvious. Then I had to realize, like, of course she doesn't come from where you come from. Like her father, her parents are white. She was raised in a certain culture. Yes, a lot of stuff y'all agree on, and she can feel you and understand where you're coming from. But a lot of stuff is ingrained in her the same way it's ingrained in me.
Yeah.
So she's not your spouse isn't your enemy. It's like it's a process of, like, and yeah, she's completely different in year 3 than she is in year 1. Like she began more upset about me about stuff, and I'd be like, babe, it's not that deep. Like they gonna be it's like, nah, it's not fair, it's not right. And she's like, she's a justice warrior. You know what I mean?
I have to unfollow a lot of people. Like, what's his face, Sean?
She's like, I can't watch no more.
It makes me angry. It makes me cry. I can't.
So yeah, I would say just have them tough conversations and, like, realize that they're not you. They're just not you. She's not me. And I had to learn, like she said all the time. I didn't realize how many times I said white people. I didn't realize. And, we just kind of just say it all the time. I was like, white people.
Like, babe, let's go to the pool. White people.
Can we go? Let's go. I'm like, oh, really? White people. She'd be like, Aaron, I'm white. And I'm like,
do not do any form of extracurricular activities. Come on.
But I say it like every day, like 8-9 times a day. I didn't realize it because we just kind of do, like.
Or even like certain types of food. I'll be like, like if he goes to Zaxby's, I'm like, make sure you get me coleslaw. He's like, white people. I'm like.
And then she'd be like, Aaron, like that kind of hurts. I'm like, I ain't talking about you. I'm talking about the rest of y'all.
Oh my God.
You realize that I'm white, right? Like,
and then God checked me and was like, imagine if she said that.
Like, what if I was like,
and I was like
as it relates to chicken or something, like,
yeah, I would be heated if she was like, not the rest of y'all.
You'd be like, that's so racist.
I'm like, babe, that's racist as heck. So I was like, I've had to learn, like, I have a lot of prejudice in me, a lot. So
that's wow.
Yeah, it was like I sometimes I said, oh, that's white. If something came on the news, like so and so happened, I'm like, they white, ain't they? And she'd be like,
or if I tell you something, you're like, I just know it was a white person.
Oh, they gotta be white. That's and then she'd be like,
I'm like, and if I'm ever like, actually, no, it was a Black man that did that, and he's like, wait, really? And I'm like, what? Like humans are just stupid in general sometimes. Like,
so I'd also say, don't take race serious. If you're interracial, you got to be able to joke and like have that tension because that's the reality. So I would say have tough conversations, but don't take it too serious because life is serious enough. You know what I mean? So, like, have fun with it if you're gonna do it. You know what I mean? So
that's real.
I love it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Gotta be cracking up. That's white people.
Now she chill, but in the beginning she used to get so mad.
I've gotten to the point now where I laugh. He has gotten better. He doesn't do it all the time, but now when he does, I'm able to kind of like separate myself and be like, okay, if he's talking about some racist, ignorant, like that doesn't apply to me, I don't need to be offended. You know what I mean? Like things like that. But then like also if you're just like joking about going to the pool or be wanting to go hiking, like I'm just sum it up. So you don't know how to have fun, or we have different forms of fun. He prefers to sit inside the house, and I want to like go experience things. And so
I want to watch sports and
do things that to me are boring. But like, and for me, I would just say like similar to what he said, but have conversations. And if you have any like assumptions or you don't understand something, like have that conversation in private so you don't look dumb in public and so you don't offend anyone in public. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things I'm like, I don't want to like offend anyone. Can you, like, you know what I mean? Like, help me with this perspective, or like just having those conversations. And like, we've had to have some very, very eye-opening, really hard conversations. Like, there's like a lot of points where I, you know, like, I'll be honest, like, we'll be in public and I feel like, you know, Black women are looking at me some type of way, or I feel like hated. And I'm like, Aaron, I feel very inferior. And I feel very like, and then those insecurities and jealousies just as a woman come out, where I feel like I'm reminded, even, you know, being like his best friend at the time, how much he did want a Black woman. And I'm like, I just feel very inferior and I feel like I'm not enough. And like, those are things I've had to walk through. And like, I'm like, I just like, I know how much I love the Black community. And so it just always like hurts my heart, because I'm like, I feel like, why do I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, they're looking at me this way, and like, it could just all be in my head. But those are conversations we've had to have, and like hard conversations that like, yeah, we've had to have. And like, so just have those hard conversations. And like, no matter how vulnerable it feels, like, it's really important to have those, so you don't have false assumptions, so you don't have bitterness, so you don't, yeah. I just think that's really important. Like,
that's probably the hardest conversation we ever had to have, because I was like, hey, babe, it's deep rooted. A Black man and a white woman, the optics of that, you got to understand, that goes back to like slavery. So if someone's mad about that, I don't get upset that they're mad, because I get it. I don't think it's right, but I get that you might be triggered. I get it.
I take it really personally. I get it. It's hard for me not to, and I have to like separate myself and be like, okay, you need to understand the trauma that like is associated with it. And yeah, that's been something I've had to walk through. So
wow. Thank you for being so honest about that, because it's very real. I know I've had to confront my own emotions about that, and it's real. Like, you have to get to a place where it's like, okay, like, I would think about the hierarchy, you know, is it my race first? Is it my gender first? Or is it first? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it kingdom first? And if it's kingdom first, then quite honestly, I won't say none of the other stuff matters, because it does. I'm all about, you know, racial and gender equality, but at the same time, we're about the purposes of God. We're about the kingdom of God. So if God has called you together, God has called you together. You know what I mean? And that's for his glory. So really, like, it's a lot. It's a lot. But I commend y'all for having those conversations, talking through it, and working through it together as a couple. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's hard. I ain't gonna lie.
It's definitely hard sometimes. It really is.
I was like, dang, Lord. I'm like, do I want to be a spokesperson for this? Sometimes I'll be like, when y'all hit us up, I'll be like, I told before, like, I don't want to be a spokesperson for interracial marriages. But it's funny, y'all hit us up, and she's like, well, you need to do it. But God's been like softening my heart, because it's like, I feel like he put us together for a reason, because I'm not the typical Black guy you would see with a white girl.
Yeah.
So that's part of my trauma. I'd be like, when they look at me, I'm like, I don't want them to think I'm the corny one that's like hates Black women. And I'm like, I promise y'all, I'm not him. Yeah. Like, this was all God. I promise you. Because I caught myself looking at other Black interracial couples and being like, corny dude. Like, and I'm like, hey, you would have. Yeah. But I can tell the guys that are kind of like, that's their energy. Like white women are nothing. Like, and their mom's Black. And I'm like, I never want to be looked at like that guy. And I had to die to that as well, because that's not fair to her. Yeah. To be like, I promise you guys, I'm not that guy.
And like, that's something that I've had to like work to not be offended at. I'm like, why do you want Black women so badly to know you're not that guy? Do you secretly still like want them instead of me? Am I not enough? And so that's something where I'm like, I have to be like, no, like, this has nothing to do with you, Mikaela. You know what I mean? Like, this is so much deeper than, and like, yeah, that's just something we have to like walk through sometimes. And like, you know, it's a sacrifice, just like marriage is a sacrifice, but I feel like there's a deeper sacrifice when you're,
yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. But just know, Mikaela, he chose you, girl. He chose you. For real. Like, literally, like, he chose you and you chose him. So that's all that needs to be said. So yeah. That's good stuff.
I showed you.
I would be remiss if we didn't get off without you sharing your clothing line or anything you want to plug, because we definitely want to support y'all. So is there anything you can put in the chat or direct people to go and support?
Oh, yeah. I got a brand. It's called breakthecyclegear.com. It's all about breaking generational curses. and encouraging people to get free mentally and emotionally from like all the change and the trauma from their childhood and adulthood that stops us from growing and like being who God created us to be. I also have a kiosk at Cumberland Mall. That's out in I think it's considered Smyrna, but you have a kiosk on Cumberland Mall right next to Charlotte Russe. I'm about to head there right now when we leave here.
Yo.
So yeah, I'm just selling merch. I'm just trying to let people tap into their identity because I know like our mindset stops us from growing. It doesn't matter what environment you're in. If you could like change your mindset and break the cycle like in your mind, then like that's when God can really have His way in your life. So yeah.
Amen. Good stuff, y'all.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Once again, don't forget to get your merch from BecomingEvaToday.com. Get your mugs, your shirts, hats, all the different things to support us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Becoming Eva Today. Join us next time for our Girl Talk Season 5 finale. See you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.